Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breakup Bites. I'm Jennifer Donison, and this is Jennifer Barkin. And today we have a very important episode and discussion. We're going to be talking about abuse and the different types of abuse that people can experience while being in a relationship.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the introduction. As Jennifer said, abuse is a pretty solemn, serious topic, and we're hoping to give viewers, listeners, some information that may be helpful. Um, I'll just break it down. Abuse comes in many forms, which we're going to discuss. So sometimes people don't even recognize that they are going through IPV, which stands for intimate partner violence or domestic violence. We're hoping to teach you how to recognize it. We're also going to give some recommendations on safety planning to keep you and your children, if you have children, safe. And at the end, we are going to, help you with some resources and provide some resources.
Mhm. And it's a very interesting um, progression that has happened in the divorce world because historically, abuse used to only be recognized if it was physical. So if people actually got bruises, if they were cut, if they were had marks on them, then it would be abusive. Now there's been a lot more recognition around people who have emotional abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse, and it's something that the courts are taking quite seriously now. So it's important for you to recognize if you are being abused and in which ways, so that you can figure out how to move forward, how best to get out of the situation that you're currently in.
Very good points, Jennifer. So domestic violence or intimate partner violence, we like to think of it, and online you can even see, we call it, there's like a wheel of violence. And there's all these different parts and pieces that make up the cycle of abuse. So clearly the first one is the physical abuse, the hitting, the pushing, the kicking, um, unconsensual sex, things like that. Those are physical. But there's also isolation. Isolation is another one. Does your partner keep you away from your family and friends? Does your partner, it's easier to abuse somebody if they don't have a support system. Um, are you not allowed to speak to your family or see them? Are you made to feel guilty? Um, that's another type, the isolation. Another type is minimizing. If you're trying to speak to your partner, oh, you're being ridiculous, or that really didn't happen. You're crazy. That's all, making you think that you've lost your mind. That's all emotional abuse. Sometimes they may use your children. If you leave me, you will never see your children again. Um, I will get the children to hate you, those sorts of threats. Sometimes economic abuse, financial abuse. So financial abuse could look like having to be accountable for every penny that you spend. Can you go out to Tim Hortons and buy a coffee? Or is he sitting here getting an alert, or she getting an alert on their phone? Ding, there's been a charge, and you're questioned on every single thing. You may not know the family finances because, oh, you'll never understand and have no idea. You may be put on some sort of allowance that you have to be accountable to every penny for. You may have to, if you're working, give your paycheck into their account and they dictate how it's going to be spent. So, you're treated like a young child. You're not treated like a partner. So there's so many different sorts of abuse that a person can go through. But what I think is so important to realize is it's not just the physical, and to know this, because often in my practice, Jennifer, and I'm sure in yours, we speak to people and we say, do you understand that this is abusive behavior? And they may make excuses for or normalize it, but often they get this aha moment, like, I really had no idea that this was abuse. And there's a lot of shame too, right? So it's a big load to carry for people that are going through this.
You're right. A lot of people don't even know that they have been suffering through an abusive relationship. A popular one that I see often is one spouse telling the other, "If you leave me, I'm just going to die. I will end my life. I am not going to live without you." And it keeps that other partner just so trapped in the relationship because of the guilt that they feel and the fear that they're experiencing, thinking that this person's going to actually end their life without them. And it's a vicious circle, because then they stay and they want to be the savior and not be the one that's responsible for the death of this person. And then that abusive partner will continue to sink their claws in and make them feel more guilty about different things and always bring it back to, well, I can't live without you and I will hurt myself or I will do this. So some people don't actually think that that's abusive because it's not hurtful physically to the other person, or it's not actually threatening the other person or anything in that manner about that person. It's just making them feel guilty. And that guilt keeps people around. And the abuser will note that and continue. It's a very hard thing to get out of because nobody wants to feel that responsibility for somebody else, especially if you have children and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that person's going to lose their mother or father or whoever it is, and it'll be on my shoulders. It's a very scary cycle of abuse.
Other things that you see in the cycle of abuse commonly, the abuse occurs, be it whatever type it is. There's some sort of blowout, whatever, and you threaten to leave your abuser, and they promise to change. So there's, things are going to be different. I'm going to do this. I'm so sorry. On and on and on and on. And you have what's called a honeymoon period often, where there is change and things are better. And then, boom, again, it happens. The abuse goes on again. And it just continues and continues. And that's why they call it a cycle, right?
Mhm. And having that person who's abusive come to you and have that honeymoon phase is the person's dream for them to be nice and
Mhm.
loving and give them everything they want. And they hope that it's going to last, but it doesn't. And sadly, sometimes it gets worse. And the abusive cycle can increase.
So with abuse, I used to work at a children's aid society. And the one thing that I can tell everybody is abuse can affect every socioeconomic background, every ethnicity, every culture. It's not like, oh, this is a good home, so this is going to be safe. As a student, I used to go into all sorts of places, and abuse really affects people across the board. So we gave you a lot of information on abuse. There's a lot more. Um, but we don't want to overload you today. So that's really going to be what we're speaking about, just to give you a little bit of information on abuse. And our next topic in our next episode that I hope you'll tune in for is going to be safety planning on how to keep yourself safe. But for now, I'm Jennifer Barkin, and this is Jennifer Donaldson. Thank you for listening.